The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Coturri, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
I'm looking at these bottles right now, Brian, and I'm realizing that we need to print little year neck stickers like they do
in France,
yeah, and put them on the Á Deux Têtes bottles. A little like, so you know, like you get a bottle of French wine and the label is the exact same label that they've been printing for 30 years, but on the there's a little sticker on the neck that says 2019.
Phil just walked in. Hey, everybody,
did you just genuflect? Did you just bow on your way in?
I'm trying to figure out where to sit.
Anywhere you want, man. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Winemakers. I'm John Myers with a truncated crew today.
Cold opening.
Yeah, very cold, and it's not
Thank you,
Midwest cold, or not Dallas cold.
We
what
are
were you saying earlier?
We'll never be Dallas cold.
No, thank you. Good. You were saying this morning that we are the warmest spot.
Other than like the southern tip of Florida, which is going to be probably brisk 70 degrees if you live in Miami and that's your normal weather.
Miami.
Our like 62 that we're going to hit in Sonoma today is it's like the warmest, the edge of California.
Excellent.
The warmest weather in the country.
I'm digging it.
Warmer than Palm Springs?
I think Palm Springs probably on the list of the warmer part of California.
You want to go to Palm Springs, Phil?
No. Maybe. It's kind of nice.
Hey, you know what? Some of the architecture down there, those houses.
Burgeoning food and wine scene in Palm Springs.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's there's a
lot of money.
Couple cool wine bars, and like the restaurants are starting to sort of like catch up with LA, basically. It's people in LA are taking their ideas and their money and they're heading to the desert, you know?
Why not? Well, everybody, this is indeed the Winemakers. John Myers, Brian Casey, Phil Coturri, Sam Coturri. Good morning, guys. This is the Á Deux Têtes release show. Yeah. How have I been waiting for this, man? My favorite one.
I changed my whole schedule.
Just to do this?
Just so I could
Excellent.
What you guys say about these wines.
Thank you, Braden Albrecht.
Thank you
for your patience and your longevity.
Well, Phil, you've been working long and hard on these wines, man.
Yeah.
And why don't you talk right into that microphone, if you would, please? There we go. You can move it. We can do everything. It's modern.
Well, and at some point, I think it would be good, John, to get a sort of back history. People that don't know Á Deux Têtes, what it means. Some people may not know who Philippe Cambie is. So maybe start with how you guys first met.
Yeah, the
Philippe.
first time you met Philippe, because I'm fuzzy on these details.
I sat in on the tail end of a speech, the talk that he gave in Chateauneuf, and I was supposed to meet him there, but he sort of wandered away, and as much as Philippe could wander.
I was going to say, not very quickly.
wander away.
Deliberate wandering.
But rambled. The first time I sat down with him, it was at the restaurant Cesson in San Francisco. It was for his birthday. So that was 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know the year. It was with Sasha Verhig arranged it. And
we could scroll back through Cambie's still active Instagram account.
Probably
it would take 1,000 swipes to get to his meal at Cesson with you and Sasha.
Yeah, and we met at
But that was 2015, 2016, I want to say?
Yeah, probably right around in there.
Yeah.
We met at a hotel there on the Embarcadero, and we were sitting in the bar waiting for him. He came he came down from upstairs, and I don't know if anybody has ever read Rex Stout books. Rex Stout was a Nero Wolfe was a detective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Nero Wolfe was Detective Rex Stout was the author,
Was
right?
the author. Nero Wolfe was
Both great names. It's hard to know which one
a
was
third of a ton, and he was always pristinely dressed, but had sort of a crazy temper. And Philippe walks into the bar, sits down. There's a pillow behind him. He flings the pillow across the bar because it was uncomfortable because he got lost in the elevator coming down from the 14th floor, because as the elevators only go to certain floors in some of these high-rise hotels, and he was just incredibly frustrated. And then he smiled, and so you had this smile that you can't ever forget. And we looked at each other and sort of I was a little bit nervous because after he flung that pillow across,
You never know where it's going.
you never know what's going to go. Yeah. And we hit it off and became great friends from that point on.
What were you drinking that night?
I actually brought down a bottle of Cayman Syrah, and
Nice.
and I must have been 13 or 14 Syrah, and we tasted it, and he really liked it because of the Cayman wines are big and in your face, as we all know, and Philippe was bigger than in your face, pretty much.
How did you come up with the idea to combine French-style winemaking with Sonoma grapes?
That came up after a A7 meeting that we put together. A7 was an organization that came together with Sasha. A7 is the main highway that goes through the Rhone Valley, and it was to be an educational organization, to be a highway, to be a line of communication between the Rhone and California. And we did a big tasting down at in Paso. That there's photographic evidence of it around all over. It was a marvelous tasting.
It was sort of like a producers only Hospice de Rhone.
Yes. Yep.
Hospice de Rhone has like the public aspect of it, and the grand tastings and the dinners and all the sort of like marketing pieces of it. A7 was specifically like, especially the first one at Law, when it was much smaller, was very much like no press, no social media, there weren't
allowed. The press was not allowed. This was just educational.
And as much as like the seminars at Hospice de Rhone are great, and any ones that you go to, when you remove the PR and sales public marketing piece of a seminar, and it's just winemakers and growers talking about growing and making Grenache. There's things that Julian Barreau said at A7 that we talk about every day.
Yeah.
Walking through every day during the end of harvest, walking through Grenache and going,
Are you guys carrying it on?
Let's wait 2 weeks.
On?
Well, it's going around in our minds.
That's a perfect place too.
And
Sasha, if you hear this, let's bring get the band back together. Let's do an A7.
We should do an A7, and
A7 Sonoma.
That was the idea. COVID got in the way of it, and atrophy got in the way of it, but. We planted the germinal for that was a conversations having with Philippe. Philippe really wanted to work with Zinfandel, and he really wanted to work with Petit Syrah, and there's all this serendipityness again. There's I believe in serendipity, the magic of people coming together. Isabel Gassier came into my life a little bit before that.
Not a bad thing.
And we.
Well, it was 2017.
Right?
That we met Isabel.
Yes.
When she was gonna be the Bedrock intern, but she hadn't. She was just traveling with Philippe,
Yes, she
translating for him and helping him. Like we did that whole tour of Sonoma and Napa.
Yeah, and
I decided not to go to the Screaming Eagle tasting, something I still regret to this day.
Yeah, because
later.
Michel Gassier was with him, and the same thing, and Julien from Jig and Das.
Yeah, Domaine Bosquet.
Domaine Bosquet. I'm having a senior moment about the memory of that Julien, incredible winemaker. He was out visiting, and I believe he was out again for another A7 event, and we came out and talked, and we went around and looked at vineyards, and they said, well, let's do something.
Wait, who said let's do something? Philippe
said let's. Would you be interested in doing some working a project together? And I said, yeah. and there was a lot of, then we had to sit down and figure out what the name was going to be. We were going to call it PC for Philippe Cambie and Phil Coturri, but we didn't want to be
Julien Brochet.
Brochet, yeah. We didn't want to be politically correct.
PC, yeah, right.
So, and we went and looked at Oakville Ranch, and then I took him out to Rossi, and he said, and that's how, again, we started discussing what we were going to do together, and while he was thinking about Zinfandel, I was thinking about Grenache the whole way, and he looked at the vineyards and said, yeah, let's do this, let's do Oakville Ranch Grenache and Rossi Ranch Grenache, and let's present them as an expose of terroir, and that's where it came together.
My big question is, do you have a favorite kid? No. Do you like Oakville or Rossi better?
Depends on the day.
Thank you.
Depends on the day. Depends on how the wine is showing. And there's that is the beauty of this collaboration, was that one is not better than the other, one is the other.
They're yin and yang. I think of just like sitting here looking at the labels lined up. The three vintages now, the 18, the 19, the 21, which is what we're here for. Eventually, we'll get to the wine, as always, on the Winemakers podcast.
You're only 12
they're yin
minutes
and
in,
yang.
Sam.
Like
It's okay.
at Oakville Ranch and Rossi Ranch they're farmed to the same exact, like the same standards, but at Oakville Ranch, the Grenache is sort of like the new and the modern and the slick compared to the 1910 Zinfandel vines at this sort of old rolling hills, farmstead. And at Oakville Ranch, it's all sleek and modern, highest end Ferraris of Cabernet. And kind of tucked into the corner is you walk into a different time, it feels like, because you have these vines that are head trained on wooden stakes with no trellising. And you can't see any of the cab. You're like in its own little like pocket. So the juxtaposition
in the deep V.
In the deep V.
That's the name of the block.
Right.
And just like it's so you look at the Rossi label and it's the lighter colored background, the golden glowing winged moon, and then you look at the Oakville and it's the dark background, the black background with the the flying eyeball. The Stanley flying eyeball, the all-seeing eye of Oakville. It's two really different places, showing really different wines. They've always been so different from the beginning.
Well, can you sort of tell people how Grenache ended up growing in this Oakville Ranch? Because I think people that know Oakville Ranch know like Maya from Dalla Valle, Helen Keplinger, Andy Erickson, they basically think of Cab when they think of that vineyard. So how did it end up that there's Grenache up there?
Well, that was me.
Well, of course.
And the Deep V was planted to Chardonnay. It's an area that you couldn't really grow Cabernet in. It was an area that
Why couldn't you grow Cabernet down? It just because it stays cold down in there.
It's a little bit colder than the exposure. It's not when you think of all the other blocks of Oakville that they have this southeastern exposures, and the Deep V is a Deep V. It's a canyon. On the north side of the canyon is Pritchard Hill. Okay, and in fact part of the vines are grown on the property owned by Ovid. All right, when Ovid is one of the premier Nelson Johnson.
We have the only Pritchard Hill Grenache.
We could go back.
We gotta restate it.
And so
reprint.
And the AVAs are all defined by drainages and elevations and soil types. And the Deep V is an old creek bed that separates the Pritchard Hill AVA from Oakville AVA. And at the time, I decided to we couldn't grow. The Chardonnay was not any good. I said, well, let's. I had planted a half-acre of Grenache just to try it out there.
That older block, sort of
the
like
older
going
block
down
yeah.
in.
Mary Minor, when it was British, when she met Bob Minor, who the owner. She met him as she was doing translations, and she was on a tour going through the Rhone Valley. So she was really into provincial type of wines. And so I talked to her. Said, "Well, let's do a half acre of Grenache. Go for it." And so, of course, the purist that I try to be, that I am, I wanted to do head prune Grenache, Goublay. And then we went ahead and did all the terraces. So there's about 1.25 acres of Grenache at Oakville.
And it's steep. I mean, the walls of the Deep V, once you get down in there, like steep. You're overhead and a half from one row to the next on these terraces. Probably cut in the 90s, those terraces?
Yeah. Historically, that was when that vineyard was originally planted in 1980.
But what did you think you were going to do with these grapes after you started growing Grenache? What did you think? Where did you think they were going to go? Or did anyone even talk about, I'm going to take those?
They were going to go here.
They were going to go here.
But that was a conversation that was had with
myself. Yes.
Okay.
In his head.
Well, it's all part of the philosophy of 16600 to make wines of place, to make wines that are an expression of place, and I decided let's try Grenache here. There was an old Zinfandel vineyard on the Oakville Ranch at one time, and there is
and there's still that section of like
a field blend,
the Roberts field, right?
Field blend that is Grenache, it's not Grenache, excuse me, Petit Syrah, Zinfandel, Carignan,
and that's head trained also, right?
That's head trained. Well, it wasn't head trained until I got there. There's certain varieties, if you're going to grow them to get the most expression, that you grow them like they're supposed to be, and large berried varieties, Zinfandel especially. You think about those old gnarly 100-year-old Zinfandel vines that from Lodi to Asti. Asti, California, not Asti, Piedmont. But there's
Primitivo. Old vine Primitivo.
They're made to be grown in that fashion.
It's fascinating. You look at maps and you see AVAs divided by a line, right? But to go out there and to see it divided by a creek, It's just so natural and perfect.
Well, that's what those lines are.
Creeks, all creeks.
They're not all creeks, but they're a soil type.
They're based on geology and geography.
Yeah, because you think about Carneros, where Carneros was I think there's another one now, but at that time was the first AVA that was in 2 separate counties. This is Sonoma and Napa. So that's a topic for another discussion. But here was we really wanted to see what Oakville would do with growing Grenache there, and have it be multi-purpose variety. Some of it is made for the owner. She has a couple barrels of rosé made every year for herself, and it was perfect because it's the same rootstock, not the same rootstock because we have different rootstocks at Rossi, but the same clones of Grenache and Mourvedre that go into both wines.
So how happy were you with the experiment with Philippe?
How happy
are you today?
I was ecstatic that it's been a highlight of my career.
Excellent.
To be able to bridge that gap and work with a person who was of Philippe's stature and understanding of Grenache, and knowing that it is definitely a small world, and the language barrier had nothing to do. We would talk in our 2 different languages and understand everything that we're saying because we're after the same thing, taste.
Yeah. And then
flavor.
How did that conversation go with Philippe? Because he sort of came here thinking about doing Zinfandel or Petit Syrah, and then you show him these vineyards, and so then does that take any coaxing, or he says, you know what, let's...
When the day is the same day that we went to Rossi and went to Oakville, it just all came together. It's to express terroir, because if you think about it, all the wines.
In fact, I remember this conversation.
You were there.
I wasn't there. You guys went to Rossi, and you called me and you go, Philippe wants to make wine from Rossi Ranch. And then you went to Steel Plow. You went down to Landmark, and he said, Philippe we wanted talking about maybe 2 Grenaches, one from Steel Plow, one from Rossi Ranch. And I'm like, okay, great. And we're like, all right, well, but don't let. I think I said don't let him take the Oakville away from 16600. And then you drive over the mountain and you probably went to lunch at Oakville Grocer, and then
where'd we go to lunch? We went somewhere.
I'm sure you went somewhere. Press, and they don't do lunch, but they did for Philippe. And then you go to Oakville and you call me and he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna do the Oakville Grenache too." Yeah, that makes sense.
and to me, it was as an experiment, not even an experiment, but as an expression of what Grenache. He's the king of Grenache, as dubbed by Robert Parker, the Prince of Grenache, and
God of Grenache,
Pope of Grenache,
too. Yeah, the Pope of Chateauneuf.
Yeah,
but the idea of terroir and expressing it, and when you sit down, and that's why I think that they should be sold as one bottle with 2 sections. Yeah.
Like
every time you open one, you have to open the other, and because
it'd be so much fun to pour.
2 glasses, 2 spigots.
We could have Kia come up with a design on it.
Future podcast guest Kia.
But no, it's wines that express the sense of place is our goal in everything that we do.
And so what's the plan then? Once you guys decide that you're going to do this, is it that Philippe is going to come here and basically show you how he wants things done? Is he doing things differently than you had normally done? Is he want to pick the date for picking? Like, what does he want?
We had the wild card in the relationship with Isabel. Isabel came to work for Enterprise Vineyards, and I remember when we were walking through Grenache, because I got enamored with Grenache at a later date in my life. I grew up with Zinfandel. Grenache was always there. I remember the first bottle of Chateauneuf I drank was a bottle that was I think you were there at Didi Vella's grandfather's house. It was from his cellar. And I just never, thought about growing it the way we did. And then given the opportunity wherever I had a chance to plant some to play with, I started doing it, and it was just a natural evolution because of the flavor profile, and as the farmer, a beautiful Goubelet pruned vine to me is a work of art. That to be able to create that open head and it's what we do with Zinfandel. That's how I learned how to prune. I learned how to prune on Old Vine Sin. I learned how to prune on the mixed black vineyards that were a combination of the Grenache was always there. There was Merveille was always there. Cinsault was always there. All these other varieties were mixed in. They're all pruned the same fashion, and so it just It evolved on its own, and to me, the love of the variety and to be able to pass that on is why we do Á Deux Têtes.
You must have been closely matched on some of your skills and techniques. Where were you closest, and then where were you farthest away from Philippe in terms of how you grow and how you make wine?
The growing part of it was there from the get-go, from the time that I met Julien Barrault, Florent Lanson, the times I spent in Chateauneuf with these before I met and started hanging out with Philippe. The growing part of it, they respected what we were doing, and then the understanding of the techniques to make Grenache properly. That's what the protocol of Philippe came in. And the big thing that was stressed was the non-alcoholic extraction of Grenache. The cold soak. I have it break down for 10 to 12 days. So the color, the essence of the skins are breaking down before there's any alcohol involved, before the fermentation process starts. And he was the délestages. There all these techniques that have been I was at this Oakville tasting the other day in Cabs, and people were talking about there's people that do délestages on Cabernet at this point that was brought in by Michel Rolland. So is the combination of their philosophical aspect or their nature of growing it and how they made the wines in Europe that he brought to the table to us, and the understanding of the grape, because every time you do a fermentation, every time you're making wine, every year you're learning something new, and that's what there's a formula, but the formula is always, or a recipe is flexible. Is always flexible. It has to be flexible because it has to express the year.
Yeah.
And I'm not a winemaker. I'm a grower.
Yeah. And so though
but I'm a wine grower.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he started telling you about the different ways that he wanted to do cold soaking or gentle pump overs or anything like this, did any of it surprise you, or you said, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea"?
Yeah.
Well, we always had Isabel
translating.
Yeah. And and it's not, it translates the wrong word, interpreting,
Right.
because she was taking and still takes Cambie's philosophies and his strategies. Let's do the 21s.
What's your reaction to the 2022 Grenache Rosé that we just
So when we first poured it, when we started talking, it was way too cold. But as it's warmed up and it's in the glass, it tastes. It doesn't taste like, but feels like really good white Burgundy. The texture of it, the acid structure.
So that's been my experience with the Á Deux Têtes Rosé from 19 forward, was that I almost, and part of it is because the first bottle that I was ever presented didn't have a label on it. It was a shiner that you gave me and said, take this home, drink it, let me know what you think. And it completely blew my mind because the color freaked me out at first on that 19 because
was that like the famous olive onion skin.
Yeah.
I don't remember what writer said it. The onion wrapper.
And then it had this weight to it that I wasn't used to. And so I thought it was a skin contact wine just based on the color before I even smelled it or drank it. And then when I drank it, I said, holy shit, this is it's like a white Burgundy with skin contact. Like, it was weird. I didn't know what to think of it. And then when you told me, oh, this is the rosé, I was like, holy crap, you guys you're going on in another direction here. This is like not your porch pounding, pool sipping rosé. This is like, this is going down another road.
It's what rosé started out to be with the wines that were originally produced in Taval, which it took. Again, following into that rabbit hole of trying to find out how this came about. That's how those rosé came about, was those carbonic macerations that went on in Taval.
Yeah. Just like tasting this, right? So this is the 22, the new Á Deux Têtes rosé, and the reason that the rosé sort of like fit into this two crazy fills, two crazy vineyard. Was, we wanted to get something out quickly, or as quickly as we could, with Á Deux Têtes, that showed the seriousness of where we were intending to take this project. So the 18 Á Deux Têtes Rosé came out in June of 2019, before we'd even bottled the red wines. Long before we bottled the red wines. And we've stuck with it just because, taking rosé as seriously as Philippe and Isabel took winemaking makes just it takes it to a whole nother level. It's way beyond porch pounding summertime fare. And again, which I don't have a problem with. We love those wines. But
it's just different.
That sip of the Á Deux Têtes rosé at essentially just below room temperature.
Yeah. Well, and even the presentation
of a wine that you could possibly get.
What did you pour, Brian?
So, well, I just want to mention that even the Á Deux Têtes rosé is in dark glass.
Right.
There's an intention of it laying down in the cellar.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think a lot of Americans aren't used to, especially when they go to wine lists for things like Sauvignon Blanc and Rosé. They look at the most current vintage and they think that's what they're supposed to be drinking, something fresh. But those of us that have had French rosés, like from Champ Bleu, where they hold their rosé back, you're not drinking the 22 and 23. You're drinking the 19.
Right.
There are serious, there are serious white wine or serious rosé. There's made serious, and that's that's why it's the beauty now that with the three vintages that we're presenting, and this rosé was our first endeavor, and after Philippe passed away, and was something that we discussed. And are we going to abandon this project? No. We have, because of of the as students of Philippe's, and Isabel as being what did, we were fortunate because she did her internship with Philippe and was able to
connective tissue.
And so as we go farther forward over the next 20 years doing this, it'll always be
20 more years.
Well, I can't wait to taste these wines when they're 20 years old. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what these wines are made for.
Right. Sam texted me this morning and said, "Hey, we're going to try all the vintages. People have a lot of questions about how long they should lay these down." And I didn't know how to respond to that text because I said, "Well, we don't know."
Right. We don't know. But I just
Rossi
on your left, Oakville on your right.
We're gonna taste the 18s and 19s. So this is the 22s, the 21s.
21 reds.
We didn't make a Á Deux Têtes in 2020. For obvious reasons.
It was an act of God.
It was an act of God. And so the 21, so 18 and 19, we're going to taste after these just to sort of like check in on them. I mean, we've tasted them a little bit. We have one of the 19s on the menu currently in the tasting house, right?
We're pouring both of the 19s.
Both of the 19s.
And then we're starting with the rosé. Splashing
with some rosé. Yeah. And then the 18s, which we don't taste very often, there's not a ton left of. Just to sort of like check in on it. It's 2024, barely. But, now can look at 5 years of age on these wines. 3 and 4 years in bottle. And really kind of get a sense of maybe how much longer they can go and where they're at as far as drinking them now or not.
What I think...
buy more than one bottle so that you can
buy a case.
Yeah,
and maybe drink 2 or 3 of them after you buy it, and then forget about it, and then every year, pull it out.
And people that work in tasting rooms will say that, and people think it's a marketing tool, like to get people to buy more wine. But it's honestly, especially here, what happens here is you come here. You try a wine, you like it. If you buy a bottle or two, the next time you come back, there's not going to be any. Right. So that's the thing with these wines. It's small production. The idea is that at least get 6 and open one a year, or one every other year, to go on the journey.
And then you forget about the one, and then 15 years later, you pull it out, and then you go, wow. Yeah. I mean,
blow the dust off of it.
Blow the dust off.
We discussed on last week's episode what it's like to go. John asked what it's like in your cellar, what there is, but also sort of just like a description of walking down into that old. It's not even that old, but it dusty old room you got cut and cover. Bart knew the term cut and cover.
I heard from Dave Hayes today, and he said that was fascinating, just talking about Phil's cellar. And, I did get dissed, by the way, because I haven't been invited, and I think it was Brian who said...
Nobody's ever invited. They just got to show up.
Maybe you did something to Phil. Okay. So, all right. Well,
about age... I could say this. Maybe I'm the oldest here in this, or John and I are. The older
by years, Phil.
By a year,
years.
You're
72.
Yes, I'm 70. I'll be 71 through this year.
Yeah.
All right.
You're born in 51.
Yeah.
I was born in 52.
Hey, we saw the best bands. We had the best pot. We had, everything.
Yeah, we brought the best pot to the world.
Yes,
but. I have a 50. It was given to me last year when I was visiting Julian Barreau. He gave me a 52 Chateau Neuf that I was supposed to open on my 70th birthday. I haven't, so I'll make sure that you're there as a magnum.
There you go. Beautiful.
But if you think about how Grenache is wines are we sell our wines before if we could sit on them for 5 years, 8 years before we could sell them. That'd be the best thing, but that's what we have to do as cellarer. When I buy wines, I put them away. I prefer age on them. There's nothing better than tasting younger wines. But
taste young wine, drink old wine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Even if it's old wine, I'm tasting it right now and I'm drinking it. That's it. I don't put down. I mean, my only bottle that I really have saved is your 2010 Severson Cab. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Magnum, so that's good.
And
just keep waiting for the right time.
it is this sort of like weird dichotomy in making wine and selling wine is we make wine. You want your wine to last a long time and to age well and gracefully and develop and get better as it in the cellar. But most people buy wine and drink wine. So you have this, you have to make wines that are buy and drinkable, or at least have some, or have wines that can do that and do both. And that has been a challenge with Á Deux Têtes because of those extended macerations, the 10 days cold soak before fermentation starts, the 2 weeks of post fermentation on the skins. They're built for the long haul and have take a little while to come out of their shell. I always recommend opening them an hour or so before serving them.
For sure.
But I think, and maybe it's a function of the vintage too, the 21s. 21 was such a it was a sigh. 21 was a sigh of a vintage. It's after 20 and picking grapes in smoke-filled skies wearing N95 masks, A, because you're worried about the smoke, and B, because you're worried about COVID and all this, the bullshit of 2020. 2021, everything just sort of like took a deep breath and relaxed a little bit. The wines, the vintage, and you taste these 21 Á Deux Têtes, and I kind of feel like they're the most drinkable now of any of the
100%.
Right?
100%. These are out of all the three vintages, definitely the more approachable upon release. But still similar in ways that the Rossi Ranch, for me, over the past couple of vintages, has been aromatically more approachable at the beginning. And then the Oakville Ranch has had this mineral graphite core flavor profile to it that is intriguing, but you almost want to. I want to know what that's going to be like down the road. But then it switches. Then 6 months later, you open them up, and aromatically, the Oakville is jumping out of the glass. It's
Phil, I have a question about the actual growth and development of the grape itself. After you've planted and it's been there 5 years, let's go 10 years down the road. How does it change as it gets to be an older vine?
In the I Ching, they talk about youthful enthusiasm, and when you're youthful, there's a different expression. There's a different vigor in the plant and in the fruit itself. Doesn't mean a young vine can't make incredible wines, because they can, but as they age, they get a little more set in their ways, and they're a little more exact in the flavors that they're coming out with, and
A little more depth?
yeah, how depth and the roots are extracting more from the soils, and they tend to get a little bit more in balance. They're not, sometimes they're not quite as that muscular athlete that you are when you're in your 20s. And in a vine, when it's in this fourth, fifth, sixth year, they're just like, boom, they're out there taking over the world. And then as you get older, you already have control of it. So that's what the wines do, and the vines do. The fruit becomes a little more exact.
Is there ever a peak in the growth of the vine and the grapes?
The older the vine, the better.
Well,
That's the beauty of it, because there isn't a peak, and The ability to deal with older vines is why there's a lot of things that we're doing now to make sure that we could go get 25 or 30-year-old Cabernets with the large berried varieties. It's easy; they have a tendency to last longer because of the pruning style and this ability to withstand the fungal extraction of Eutypa. But that's why it's always every year is an explanation, explaining what's happening, and I'm marking that time.
How old are the oldest vines that you deal with on a regular basis?
The stuff at Old Hill goes back to the 1870s, 90s, I think. Rossi's 1910.
Berisha.
1882.
1882. Yeah.
Good. That's why I have him around. He has a memory. As you know, you don't remember everything, but it's dealing with older vines is so much it's a luxury.
Well, obviously these are amazing,
but
and I still taste the difference.
21 across the board is a big tannic year. There's used tannins there, but it was a real ripe year, and the fruit flavors. And what's interesting to me in 21s is the expression, how expressive Oakville is at this younger age. Yep. And from when we tasted them last week, 10 days ago, it blew my mind. Oakville has, and that's the beauty of the vineyard, has this little bit of this tightness, and it's grown in this. It's full of all around it. It's full of mountain lilac. So there's this aromatics that happens in the spring and in the chaparralness of Oakville's environment that comes through as the wines age. The beautiful aromatics.
Yeah.
How do you lilac? It looks like
Mountain lilac.
How do you taste these, Brian, as a sommelier? What are they telling you?
I mean, what's fun is that I've gotten to try the different vintages and how they've changed now, especially the Oakville Ranch, the 18 especially, and then a little bit in the 19 where it was a little tight, like you wanted to coax it out of the bottle. And now with the 21, it's like it's peeking its head out and it's showing itself right when you're opening up the bottle, way more than it ever was in the 18 and 19. It's almost like it's come into its own and it's starting to kind of show off a little bit, the vines up there. And then aromatically for me, the Rossi Ranch has always been like a prettier floral and herbs on the nose, whereas the Oakville was just like darker. It has this
more austere.
Oh, there is a difference, that's for sure.
And that's terroir. I mean that's they're both hillside. Rossi, the elevation is probably 400 feet at the highest point where the Grenache is. Oakville is at 600 feet. Oakville is definitely a different soil type, and they're picked within 2-3 days of each other, a week. Is at the most. I think I'd have to look at the exact harvest dates here, but they're being.
you usually pick Oakville a couple days earlier than Rossi.
Well, how does terroir translate into taste and bouquet?
That's why you're here. That's why you're tasting these wines, because that's how does it translate. That's the elusiveness of our descriptors of it, but you're tasting the same clone, the same plant material, on planet grown, the same grower. Terroir is aspects, slopes, soil types, and the attitude of the grower. So the attitude of the grower is coming through on both of these, but you're tasting the soil, the aspect, the neighborhood of where it's grown in, and that's why we did this, So you could sit down and say, "Wow, these are two distinct wines made by the same person, fermented with the same native yeasts, dealt with but in the winery exactly the same, and they're unique."
So the question is to you is why? Why? But that's not just a question with these wines. It's a question with
Anyone.
with wines in general. Is like, why is that a thing? I mean, and there's people that don't believe in terroir, which blows my mind that they.
I mean, I think that this is proof in front of us of terroir.
Are the
They're in the
soils
same
that much
oak.
different?
The protocols are the soils are everything. The soils are different. The microclimates are
Spreckles
different.
loam at Rossi, and I'm having a senior moment, but it's the red soil series that assumes that
Red Hill clay.
Yeah, it's that is grown in Oakville. They're different soils. They're a different ecosystem with the same plants. If because of it's a little further east,
But it's only what, 5 miles difference?
probably as a crow flies, it's probably more like 10.
Okay.
Because this Oakville, I mean, Rossi is on the slopes of Sonoma Mountain. Then you got the Sonoma Valley to go through. You hit the Mayacamas. Then from the Mayacamas, you got to go across to the Vaca Range, and this is on the western slopes of the Vaca Range.
So as a consumer, the Oakville tastes more complex today. Thoughts on that? You right?
I mean, I to me, I would say that maybe the complexity is that it's just kind of showing you a little bit of itself, but then I think it's actually holding back a little bit. I think there's a lot more over the next 20 minutes, hour that's going to bring. So you talk about complexity now. Just wait a while. Unfortunately, we're going to try the other two vintages.
Well, no, we're going to. Unfortunately, we're going to leave these. I'm going to get 2 more glasses.
Oh, good. Okay,
Because
We wondered how many glasses we should put out.
We asked about that.
We're
Before
gonna
we
put out
started.
3.
and
Now we're gonna have 6.
yeah, well, we're gonna start. We're going backwards in time.
I knew, Brian. I knew we should have just done it from the start.
You mean these wines are made to be enjoyed like this?
And
Thank you,
I can
Brian.
tell you, they are.
See, I can't carry glasses like that.
He's a professional. Don't
Yeah,
do this at home, kids. Brian's a professional.
I'm sitting over. I'm getting lost into Google Maps for the moment. Measuring by the crow flies the distance from. I think it's a little further than we.
TerraVision.
You were pretty spot on, Phil. Google says 11.89 miles straight line, Oakville Ranch to Rossi Ranch.
I said 10.
You said 10. Yeah.
Well, it takes me 49 and a half minutes.
Really? That long? Is
Well,
that
you
just
know,
traffic?
I'm an old man. I drive slow.
Right.
It depends on if I get lost on top.
John's a race car driver, Dad, so he doesn't understand driving with.
Have you seen the new Ferrari movie?
I have. I thought it was wonderful.
know.
Really well done.
Yeah, I really want to see it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know, on those Italian roads, you don't have to race. You just go out and drive and have so much fun with the top down. So it's perfect. Hey, that's exactly what we're doing this afternoon, taking Joan's car over to Jenner.
She has you bought your wife a Ferrari?
No. She's got an old Mercedes 2-seater convertible.
Oh, cool.
That she bought
classic.
herself.
And she lets you.
Okay.
But it's 25 years old, so it's getting to be a classic.
Oh, definitely.
It's beautiful.
It is a cool car.
Yeah, I love it. But she does get to go drive a Ferrari out at Sonoma Raceway in August, so that's going to be fun. That was her big Christmas present. Hey, I'm lucky that I have a wife that loves it as much as I do.
Such different years.
Oh boy.
I mean,
Oh boy.
Now what are we drinking here?
So the 19 Rossi on your left, So it's got. I know that's how it lines up when you're looking at the bottles, but Rossi right, just because it's easy to say. Rossi on the left, Oakville on the right.
There's a big difference between the new and the old pour.
Yeah.
So this is going from a 2021 back to a 19.
19.
Wow.
19 was a spectacular vintage. You know, the 18 and 19 together are spectacular. The 21 is marvelous. In this 23, who knows? It could go down as one of the vintages of the century.
For what vintage? Sorry.
23.
23.
23. I'm just so excited about it. This afternoon we'll be tasting 23s.
So I've heard that, but you know how you never know if it's hype. That people, you see on social media, people are saying, "Oh, it's the vintage of."
It's not hype.
Yeah.
I'm so bullish. Is that what you say when you're in the stock market? On 23, the flavors are the length of the growing season with the mildness of the weather. It's hard to say it was a cool growing season. I mean, it was kind of cool and wet
cool
at the end, but just like the slowness with which things ripened. I don't, it was
just
ideal.
let it have a very mellow, healthy year.
Totally.
You know what? The Oakville is shy.
I was going to say the exact same thing. It is. This is what I mean. In the 21, it's kind of peeking its head out. In the 19, it's shy. It's exactly right.
And tasting a lot.
Whereas the Rossi is jumping out of.
Yeah, the Rossi's is this flamboyant.
Which I found with a lot of the 19 Sonoma and Napa Reds, that aromatically they were sort of jumping out of the glass.
Yeah.
This Oakville, and this has been open about an hour and a half at this point.
Yeah.
And it's still has
reticent.
Yeah.
But then you put it in your mouth, and the silkiness of it, it has the mature flavors compared to the 21 is I don't want to use the word bubble gum, but as you put a piece of juicy fruit in your mouth at first. How it just the 21s are like that, but as wine get older, that gets calmed down and becomes more of a subtle intricacy and depth in the wine, and that's I one of the few things I buy a lot of is wine, and in my cellar I do have when. Well,
what else do you buy a lot of? Concert tickets and wine. Pretty much.
That's the only two things I do.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
This is exactly what you've been working for.
But I can't. I love wine. I love younger wines, but I want them 5 years old. Yeah. This 19 right now is going into its
fifth year.
So
and it's hitting a magic spot.
You're being like Orson Welles. I'll drink no wine before it's time.
No wine.
Well, but
classic.
Yeah.
Slurring his way. Paul Masson.
Citizen Kane was my favorite.
I like it. Yeah,
it's an incredible movie.
Rosebud wine. Somebody made a rosebud.
Somebody probably did make a rosebud. It was probably
like wine that you just so desired and sought after that you whisper its name on your deathbed. Should probably work on that.
My dad was.
But marketing, we'll have a little border right here between the marketeers and the.
My dad was in school when. The War of the Worlds radio broadcast was on. And it was a program they regularly listened to. And all of a sudden it's like, Mars attacks. And wild.
The only person I'm missing here is wish Isabel was here to taste this with us. And Philippe.
And Philippe.
How do her tastes differ from yours?
Oh, I think everybody has a different a different expression that they and how they express what they taste, but just as the winemaker, as the director, and the interpreter of Philippe. To get back to why we're here, because of celebrating Philippe on his
birthday is, if you're listening, the show comes out Friday. His birthday is Sunday, the 21st.
The 21st.
January.
There's a
21st.
glass. Oh my God, Brian! I need a photo of that. Hang on, stop. He's got like 95 glasses in his hand.
Brian?
Not the way you're supposed to carry glassware. FYI.
Yeah.
If
Don't do this at home.
If you were working for yourself, you'd fire yourself.
I get fired at any hotel or restaurant.
But as we for everybody out there in listening land, and I'm sure we're all serious winemakers and wine drinkers here. There's nothing more exciting to do a vertical, and to see those different marks in time, knowing that the Grenache is the last grapes that we normally harvest every year, and to see
Beyond cab hanging.
Lately,
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
or right around the same time.
The only vertical I've ever done is a Silver Oak 10-year vertical.
Yeah, it's amazing because you think it's a memory of what happened at that point in time, and the times that we've had around this table with
Philippe sitting there.
I
like that we've
we stayed out of
Bart didn't make it today. I'm sure it's MLK Day. He has his kid home from school.
I think it was Bart right now. No.
And I think this are
Guests.
guests
Welcome,
of Wineries,
guests.
the 16600 Tasting House Experience, which they're going to get by their host getting up, pouring them wine, and then coming back to talking to microphones. Hopefully.
He's so good at this, though. He's born to do exactly what he's doing.
You smell the Oakville right now, and you get that mountain light. You get that the
18.
Now,
The
what
18.
are we tasting?
the 18.
So 2018, same Á Deux Têtes, Rossi on your left.
Are you selling
Oakville on
verticals like this? Are they available?
It's all for sale, John. we are going to include a limited amount of verticals listed
what
on
a
the website
shipment.
with this release.
Think
Yeah.
of this. Here are 6 bottles.
This is
3 years.
This is exactly how this is supposed to be done.
Phil's having fun.
Opening a great bottle of wine for dinner, for hanging out with your friends is awesome. Getting to taste basically a vertical horizontal tasting. We're going both directions right now with the 2 vineyards and the 2 vintages. Is where, like, oh my God, wine matters. It's the combination of the hedonistic and academic exploration.
Perfect.
And it, and if you're it hits all those triggers. It hits all those points that all the dopamine, all the serotonin, all the just like it satisfies your curiosity.
All the dope in me.
All the dope in me, yes. All the dope in you, all the dope in me, the dopamine.
The dopamine.
Dopamine.
My uptake is really awake right now, man. It's like, yeah, this is good. Well, and consistently, the Oakville presents itself as a more complex bouquet.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not sure why, other than back to the terroir, but what is it chemically that does that, Phil? Do you know?
Why it does that? That's if we had an Oakville Cabernet here, of the same vintage, along
Do the same thing.
you'd do the same thing, because when the Oakville grapes hold the acidity through heat spikes, and that's a part of the again the expression of the terroir, and And I think when I tasted the 18, the 18 is more almost as expressive as the 21.
The 19 Oakville is the shy one, and the 19 Rossi is
Shy also.
Is shy also. I was expecting my as I were was putting this together in my mind, I was like, all right, what we're gonna say is drink the 19s and save the 18s. But I don't think I think it's the other way around right now. I think the 18 is really coming into its.
For every 19 that they buy, you buy some 21 that you drink. And for every 18 that you buy another 21. So you can always keep it replenished.
Just keep that spot in your cellar.
I would love to do this on the 24th of February when Julian is here. Julian Barreau coming in, who to me is incredible.
We'll go all Oakville.
Going to do a podcast?
Yeah, we're gonna from Domaine de la Baroche, pure. The white label 100-year-old Grenache.
Nice, yes.
And then now the red label pure. He told me he's not welcome if he doesn't bring some of the pure Claret Blanche. Joking. Kind of.
I have some.
I know.
So
saved for that.
Let's take this down to reality of running a tasting house.
Okay.
What percentage of people are favoring the Oakville, and what, on the other hand, for the Rossi?
It goes pretty 50-50. I think we could probably look at that. For a long time, the Rossi was the frequent favorite. I think lately it's shifting a little more towards Oakville. If there's a flaw in the Á Deux Têtes program, especially pouring them in the tasting room, is that it invites comparison as opposed to.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but it's. I don't necessarily want somebody to say this one's my favorite over this one. What I want people to talk about is, well, this one has these aspects and differences than the other one, and this one has these differences and aspects. And then what are the similarities?
Will you sell one without the other?
What's that?
Will you sell one? I mean, you've always
totally.
packaged them together.
My hat. We can sell whatever we have
Don't
here.
sell your glasses. You won't be able to make it home. Seeing glasses, not wine glasses. Wine glasses are for sale. It's just you can buy one. You can buy single bottles. You can buy with the release.
To get all three,
you can get all three, and there's price incentives to buy all three, to buy the two at the same time. But there'll be individual bottles available as well. It's just it is.
I've always bought the bottles.
And we've had people on social media who've gotten the opportunity. The 18.
Yeah. So Brian, who just came back after working, and the question comes in as people come through the tasting house and taste. Is there a favorite, or is it an elusive favorite?
That's the great thing about wine, is that everyone has a different favorite. And initially, when we did this last year, we were pouring them side by side. And I think we found out that what was happening when you poured them side by side is people were picking. It almost became a competition of what they like better. And so now we're pouring them one after another. We're pouring them so people can appreciate each wine individually.
The uniqueness of terroir.
Right. And they still have
glasses?
No. And they still have that flavor in their mouth from the previous wine when you pour the next.
Which one would you pour first? Which one would you present present first?
For me, it's always Rossi, just because of aromatics, that it sort of invites you in. And then when I get to Oakville, for me, it's all about the palate.
And to answer a question that you asked a while back, John, the major difference between the two blocks are the Rossi is 7 years older from when it was planted. and are we seeing a maturation difference of vine maturation? And that's, I don't know.
For me, this 18 Oakville is like I want to get in a time machine and see where this thing's going to go.
Yeah.
It still has an incredible tannin structure to it, and is whereas I don't think the 19 doesn't have that same feeling. Yeah. But this 18 is just got a long life ahead of it.
This wine pairs incredible. I don't know if it's playing from the Rose Room or Sirius XM.
Yeah.
There's Dark Star playing in the background right now. The Oakville, Á Deux Têtes, and Dark Star. I'm not usually like a wine and music pairing kind of person, but there's something just like those extended notes. You don't know where it's going.
The melodic.
Yeah, the sort of like
explosion.
a long melody.
Yeah.
And I'm getting something on these wines that I
Pouring
didn't.
its light into ashes, Brian.
There's, I don't know if anyone's ever had crab apples before, but I'm starting to notice a crab apple flavor in these wines, where it's almost it's an apple flavor, but it's a tightness to it. It's a crunchiness. It's a higher toned acidity to it. Not with acid, just with like this base of it.
The Philippe. All I got to say is thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being you, number one, and being part of our lives. And I really hope that we're able to carry this on with your spirit, because in your spirit of exact flavor, and to celebrate flavor, because without Philippe's influence, we wouldn't be doing this.
And one of the coolest things for me is
keep his name on the back label.
Yeah,
I mean the new vintages. He's always part of this, and he's always the voice in your ear, making the wines, walking the vineyards, tasting through as it ferments, and the extended maceration. I love this release, the 21s and the 22s, because it's the last vintage that Philippe was involved in, and the first vintage without him, with the 22 rosé, and experience because of and Isabel going home. So this was the 21 was me and Jack tasting through and talking to Isabel every day, and the craziness of the fermentation and the post-fermentation, where the tannin expression and reactivity ebbs and flows, and picking that press date on the ebb of the tannic reactivity, so it's as opposed to the peak of it, because the peaks are intense, and to see these wines evolve and know that it's Philippe's voice in our ears, and Philippe's voice is in our palate. Philippe is in our mouth when we're tasting these wines in the winery, and to see sort of the fruition of that in these glasses is pretty special.
And for me, having been in the Rhone world for a little while, it was always people that took Grenache extremely seriously were always down in Paso, where it was like, the Cinquanon or Sinequanon and Saxum, Justin and Manfred. But this is like saying, hey, we're up here in Sonoma and we're doing serious fucking Grenache. Like, this to me is, and part of it has to do with the farming of it, and part of it has to do with the winemaking of it, and part of it has to do with the presentation of the wines. But this is like, if you like Grenache, this is the highest peak. Like, you're gonna, and this is actually approachable.
I could get really provincial and describe the differences between Paso and Sonoma.
Let's save that. We'll save that for another show.
Yeah.
But this is all. That's the beauty of Grenache and the sense of place. Grenache and terroir.
Yeah.
And this is of Sonoma, Napa, terroir, North Coast terroir.
But you know what I mean? How it's
Yeah.
like we planted a flag here in Sonoma with Pinot and Chard and Cab.
Yeah.
And down in Paso, they seem to have planted their flag with Syrah and Grenache
Yeah.
at some point. But this is kind of saying, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
check this out.
Yeah. Check it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, please do check it out.
Check
Well, if you're here this
check your
month-
emails.
Yeah.
The release is live. Go to the website. If you go to 16600 winery16600.com under wines, it's the first listing is all Á Deux Têtes right now.
And we've just been pouring the 19s, but then the release of the 21s will be at some point this month.
Well, this show comes out Friday. The release is Sunday, the 21st, Cambie's birthday.
For Philippe's birthday.
For Philippe.
Then stay tuned. We might try and do something on Á Deux Têtes Day, which is obviously February 22nd, 222. Might do some little pickup party tasting extravaganza at the tasting room.
For those in the know.
For those in the know, maybe have a Stanley Mouse appearance. We'll see.
The 22nd? Really?
The 22nd. It's a Thursday, so we'll do like kind of an afternoon hangout.
Cool. Can I come?
Yeah, you got to buy Á Deux Têtes.
No.
Minimum? Is there a minimum?
3 bottles, one of each.
Well, I'm just thinking, what a case of wines. 4
Right.
of each of these. Stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
I mean, it's the idea. It's the idea. That's definitely the idea.
I just ran
There's
back
more
from
than one of each
youngest to oldest on the Oakville side.
on the Oakville side.
I mean, that's my taste. You've hit it. This is me right here.
Good. All right. Good.
Now I'm going to do the Rossi. I may have an identity conflict.
Well, John, that's why we did it. We did it for
It's
you.
fun.
Yeah.
This is the idea, right?
Yeah.
So, wow.
The 19 Rossi's on.
Monster.
With the
Oh, I see that Brian's
Peppery.
capping these, so I guess I'm not taking any home today. So buy a couple.
I imagine that you can probably.
We're gonna have these when we taste the 20.
That's the
We're
idea.
going to taste 23s in just a minute. Yeah. We're going to get some lunch. Anyway, I want to sort of echo. We always end the show with shout outs, but the only shout out is Cambie.
It's Cambie.
Isabel, you get a shout out also because we miss you and wish you were here.
Phenomenal.
And
What
so
a
excited
lady.
for all the things you're doing in France, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, what's going on with her right now?
She's getting her family's property certified regenerative.
Yeah, she's-
and doing great things,
she's
making great wines.
Yeah.
And still gets to come over here and
work
play
with
with
us.
us. And
Now,
make
does she
some of our
know the
wine, too.
Rolaids?
I'm-
Blue.
I don't know if directly, but we should make that connection.
They could probably do a lot for her in terms of what her background is. She's just like a diamond, man.
Oh, Isabel's great.
So, to Cambie, to Isabel,
Yeah. To the French connection.
to the French connection, to the two-headed monster, the two Phils.
Á Deux Têtes.
Á Deux Têtes.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, what a great show. Everybody line up. Get right on it. The email goes out when?
Email goes out on Sunday the 21st.
All right.
Yeah, Cambie's
That's
birthday.
the availability. How many cases of each?
The rosé is really limited. The rosé
60?
will be like 60, and it says 60 on the bottle. In reality, there's
50.
There's about 45 cases. Of the reds, I think about 130, 140 cases
Of
each.
each. Yeah.
So, Phil, I have one last personal question. How many of these do you lay down? How many cases?
Well, right now he's laying down about 140 to 50 cases of each.
I have a case of each in my cellar so far.
All right.
Of the 18 and 19.
Well, then I'm going to take you up on the tasting someday.
Okay.
Come up to the cellar.
Anytime.
All righty. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We are the Winemakers, and we will talk to you next week. Enjoy.